The ATF has been around in one way, shape, or form for roughly 200 years. Of course, the first 130 years of that were spent sitting around snorting coke, but things quickly got bad after that. Come on in, hang out, because I'm about to tell you the 10 worst decisions the ATF has ever made. Oh boy, I'm going on a list after this one. Thanks, Eric. Before we get into it, I have an early honorable mention. This list is primarily comprised of statements, rules, and stupid laws that a non-elected entity has decided to unilaterally create and enforce upon us in direct contradiction to the Second Amendment. I'd like us to all pay our respects to the scores of poor, innocent doggos that have been brutally murdered by the ATF. Each like on this video is a crisp middle finger to the organization that keeps trying to off our furry little friends, while a sub to this channel equates to one drink poured out in remembrance of man's best friend. Also, don't forget to join the Discord, then you can tell us how many doggos you've never murdered. Unlike the ATF. Number 10. In 1934, the National Firearms Act became the law of the land. And with that law came the mandatory removal of all giggle switches from privately owned boomsticks. Obviously, this is a crock of crap due to the fact that if a tyrannical government wants to kick my door in and start infringing me, I should be allowed to defend myself with equal force. But there's one loophole to this law that nobody saw coming. If you've got 200 bones and some time to sit around with your thumb up your ass, full auto weapons are somehow no longer a danger to society in your hands.
Okay.
Of course, this is an oversimplification of the process, and there are some stipulations, but that's essentially it. If we only knew that $200 would make you a non-threat to society, we might be able to, I don't know, end all war? Oh boy. One would think that an organization such as the ATF was created to keep the interests and safety of the United States as a top priority.
Wrong.
Number 9 shows that this is either not the case, or they totally suck donkey balls at it. Let's take a look at some alphabet soup and show you how valuable each organization is. The FBI enforces federal law. The IRS steals from citizens to ensure it stays funded. The CIA, well, they give people syphilis and then tell them they've got bad blood instead of actually treating them. And in 2008, the ATF gave 12,000 guns to Mexican drug cartels in an attempt to catch the Mexican drug cartels doing something wrong. I'm sorry, what? Can we get a slow clap for that ingenious plan? That's like trying to make jalapeno peppers less spicy by dipping them in hot sauce and then rubbing them on my taint and wondering why my wife had to take me to the hospital. It's not a true story, I promise. Number 7. Remember the First Amendment? You know, the one that affords individuals freedom of religion regardless of how weird it is? I mean, we did talk about Pastafarians last week. It's kind of important to our nation considering that the first settlers were kicked out of England for wearing shoe buckles on their hats. Well, the ATF doesn't give a shit about that amendment either. They proved this in 1993 by using military force to kill 76 civilians, including non-combatant children, by setting them on fire. Once they were done patting themselves on the back, they were shocked to learn that everybody disliked that. There are a couple more details to the story, but the Waco massacre is proof that the government will kill you, burn your corpse, and then make everything better by just saying, sorry.
You're a stupid suck my d***.
In 1992, we find our number 6 incident on this list. Randy Weaver, who was almost universally known as a bad dude, was doing a bad thing.
Wow.
He was selling illegally shortened shotguns to white supremacist groups, and then apparently he mistook some ATF boys for terrible and evil people. Not really that far of a stretch, and an easily understandable mistake by Weaver there. In fairness, there were a couple of really big problems with what Weaver was doing. Number 1, he was helping arm militant evil people. Number 2, he could have just cut the buttstock off the shotgun and then they would have been considered other firearms as opposed to short-barreled shotguns. And then we're treated to a display of a lack of any real intelligence relating to the militant white supremacists, as they were incapable of using a hacksaw for themselves. No matter how stupid Randy Weaver was, killing Mrs. Weaver and his son is super messed up.
Fuck it. That's messed up, man. That's messed up.
Number 5. If you ever go to a gun range in Europe, you will quickly find that countries with some of the most strict gun control laws in the world, and nations that don't even afford gun ownership as a right, all but force you to use a suppressor on your rifle. It's generally just considered bad manners to even shoot a rifle without a suppressor. So ATF, why in the hell would you continue to tell us that we shouldn't use them? This is clearly another case of paying $200 to make your death machine incapable of being used in a crime.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Now, with that said, people are becoming increasingly able to find $200, which has caused the use of suppressors to increase exponentially over the past few years. Yet somehow suppressors used in crimes are not increasing at any noticeable rate or by any definable stretch of statistics. Go flower your nuts, ATF. Nobody likes you.
Take a big step back and literally your own face!
Number 4 involves skipping out on rent. There's no telling how many times this has actually happened, but in 2014, a story broke out about the ATF renting space in Milwaukee and using it to entrap gun buyers. Great job, boys. They advertised the space as a gun store and used a flyer that literally said they buy, sell, and trade, wink, wink. How incredibly obvious is that?
Wink, wink.
Seriously, I wonder if that's where the whole Not Today ATF meme started. That's like me telling my wife that it'd be a real shame if she were to warm up some pizza rolls and then wink at her. Nobody's being fooled by my attempt to persuade somebody that I don't want to eat all the pizza rolls all the time forever. So here's the real story. The ATF realized that people who go to gun stores are mostly interested in exercising their Second Amendment rights within the confines of the unconstitutional laws that are in place. So what'd they do? They closed up shop, trashed the building they rented, and bolted.
Run.
Leaving over $15,000 unpaid to the owner of the rental space. Then, when the owner tried to collect, he was told he was dangerously close to harassing federal agents and better back off or risk being arrested himself. Oh hey, the flyer they used also broke copyright law by ripping off a logo from the movie The Expendables. The same thing was done in Portland, Phoenix, Atlanta, and several other cities. Come on, guys. Number 3, the unilateral redefinition of their own legal language. It's no big secret that the primary part of any gun that the ATF has decided needs to be serialized and controlled is the receiver. The definition on the books at the ATF is as follows. That part of a firearm which provides housing for the hammer, bolt, or breech block and firing mechanism, and which is usually threaded at its forward portion to receive the barrel. Since it's also no big secret that the ATF was crafted from extra chromosomes that were discarded by ancient civilization, you should not be surprised to know that this definition does not apply to roughly 60% of all firearms commercially available in the United States. The AR platform has a split receiver, making this definition unable to apply to any single component of an AR-15. Due to the fact that gun laws are written by people who don't know jack about guns, the ATF, once again an organization that consists of exactly 0 elected officials, changes their interpretation of the law as they see fit so they can best infringe upon our rights whenever they like. This brings us to number 2. Honey badger much? How about bump stocks? How about you can shoulder your pistol brace, now you can't. But now you can again, only if you didn't mean to when you originally attached it. Confused yet?
I'm confused.
The ATF is the only organization in the country that has made thousands of law-abiding citizens felons with a few simple keystrokes. You'd think that with all the citizen killing and the dog murdering and the failures to pay rent, an elected official or maybe even a lawyer would just work with them and say something like, nah dog, that's not really how we do it around here. Unfortunately, it takes about 30,000 emails to Congress for somebody to say that you can keep that sugar weasel you bought legally yesterday. Number 1 is pretty simple. Just existing is the worst thing the ATF has ever done. The ATF started out as an agency designed to collect taxes on import tobacco and liquor to help pay for the Revolutionary War. Now, obviously, we know that taxation is theft, and the revolution was started over taxes on tea. So how did people think that this would end up anything other than badly? At this point, I think the best thing to do with the ATF is to give it the rock treatment. In case you're unfamiliar, that is to inform Congress that they can take the entire ATF,
turn that some sideways, and stick it straight up your candy ass!
Well, that about wraps it up for this week, folks. Make sure you say a prayer for my doggo Lexi. If you dislike this video, then you probably have a disdain for oversimplification of historical events. But if you like the video, make sure to smash that thumbs up button and share it around with your friends. Consider subscribing to the channel and checking out our Patreon page to stay up to date on current and future content. And if you want to rep some Tundra swag, follow the link in the description below to our store on Teespring. Thanks for watching, Tundra Nation, and you can now find us on Instagram at Tundra Tactical MN.